the night god who whispers in dreams. Once, in a time when the moon was young and the stars still learned their places in the sky, there was a god who walked in the shadows of the night. His name was Nyxeros, the night god, and his voice was softer than the wind, gentler than the rustling leaves. He did not shout like the thunder or roar like the sea. Instead, Nyxeros whispered, only in dreams. No one had ever seen him, for he was as invisible as the air itself. But every night, when children and elders closed their eyes, Nyxeros would lean close and murmur stories into their sleeping minds. Some heard tales of faraway lands where mountains touched the clouds. Others dreamed of oceans so deep that even light could not reach the bottom. And sometimes, just sometimes, Nyxeros would whisper secrets, truths that the waking world had forgotten. In a small village at the edge of a great forest, there lived a boy named Eli. He was no different from other children, except for one thing. Eli remembered every dream Nyxeros ever gave him. While others awoke with only fragments of their nightly journeys, Eli carried his dreams with him like treasures in his pocket. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the first stars blinked awake, Eli sat beside his grandmother near the fire. "Tell me about the night god," he said. His grandmother smiled, her eyes reflecting the flames. "Nyxeros is old, older than the oldest tree. Some say he was born from the first sigh of the universe. He does not rule the night. He deeds the night, and he chooses carefully whose dreams to visit." Eli frowned. "But why does he whisper? Why not speak to us when we're awake?" Because his grandmother said, "Dreams are the language of the soul. Words in the waking world are bound by time and noise. But in dreams, truth flows like a river." That night, as Eli lay in bed, he closed his eyes and waited. The village grew quiet. Crickets sang their nightly songs, and the wind brushed against the walls of the house. Then, just as sleep began to pull him under, he heard it, the softest voice like silk against his thoughts. Gaily, Nyxeros whispered, "You listen well. Would you like to hear a story no one else knows?" Eli, though asleep, nodded in his dream. Long ago, Nyxeros began, before the first human walked the earth. The stars were not in the sky. They lived underground, hidden in a great cavern, glowing like fireflies. The world above was dark, and the moon was lonely. So the moon called to the stars, but the stars were afraid of the vast emptiness. "One tiny star," Nyxeros continued, "for the smallest of them all, decided to be brave. It floated up through the earth, and when it reached the sky, it sparkled like a diamond. The other stars saw the night was full of light. But the first star, the brave one, was different. It did not stay in one place. It danced across." "Jazz," the night god murmured. "Awesome truths are only for those who truly listen. The world forgets that even the smallest light can change everything." When morning came, Eli woke with the story burning in his heart. He ran outside and looked up at the sky, even though the stars had faded with the dawn. He knew now that the night was not just darkness. It was a tapestry of stories, woven by a god who spoke in whispers. From that night on, Eli paid closer attention to his dreams. And sometimes, when the world was quiet and the wind carried the scent of distant lands, he would close his eyes and smile, knowing Nyxeros was near, still whispering, still telling stories that only the dreamers could hear. And so the night god continued his silent work, weaving tales into the fabric of sleep, reminding all who listened that even in darkness there is magic, and even in silence there are words waiting to be heard.